So find your way into a comfortable seat. Bring your hands to heart center, close your eyes, and just take a couple moments. Wiggle your spine. Take a deep enough inhale that it feels like you're breathing all the way down to your root lock. Feeling the natural pause between the inhale and the exhale, and the exhale and the inhale. Let's sound 3 ohms to start our yin class today. Empty your breath, take a deep inhale through your nose. And keep your eyes closed. Take a full inhale and stretch your spine long. And then with your exhale, let your left ear drop to your left shoulder. I'll be your mirror. Oh, no, I'm not your mirror. Now I'm your mirror. And with your eyes closed, reach your left arm around behind your head. Take your fingers to the corner of your eye and pull gently a little bit back and up. Take another full inhale. And then with your exhale, reach your tongue to the floor and look up to the ceiling. So you look a little bit like a guard of the threshold. So take a full inhale. Beautiful. And then with your next exhale, drop your chin to your left shoulder and pull the back of your skull, feeling the subtle stretch in your neck. Gargoyle, that was what I was trying to say. Guardian of threshold, which is what a gargoyle is. All right, come back to center, stretch your spine tall, lift your chin just so it's level with the floor. And then with your next exhale, drop your right ear to your right shoulder. Eyes can close again. Take your right arm, bring it around behind your head. Take your fingers just right behind the corner of your eye and pull up and back. Take a full inhale. And then exhale, stick out your tongue to the floor and look at the ceiling. Beautiful. And then with your next exhale, grab the back of your skull and start to just gently pull your chin towards your, like the inside of your shoulder. It's more like to your collarbone. But you feel where the richness is and the stretch in your neck. And then inhale, lift up. Bring both hands right below your collarbones. Push your hand in and pull just very gently down. And then lift up your chin, keeping the back of your neck long. Reaching your chin out so you feel a stretch in the front of your neck. Purse your lips up towards the ceiling. And then bring your chin back to level. Then take your chin to your left shoulder, reach your chin up one more time, like you're kissing that side of the world. Good day. And then take it to your other side. Pursing your lips, feeling the push on your collarbones, feels like a nice little stretch in your neck. And then come back to center. Now that you've been like angel-fied, we're going to come into a wide-kneed child's pose. So cross your ankles, take your knees wide, big toes touching, and just stretch out your arms. Wiggle your hips back towards your heels. Take a full inhale. And with your exhale, relax into the pose, soften into the pose. So in the sky today, Mars enters the sign of Aries, and yesterday Venus entered the sign of Taurus. Both of these placements or locations are native to the planet. So Venus is totally at home in Taurus, and Mars is totally at home in Aries. So your hips drop as you soften into the pose. After making the small adjustments like you have, just settle in and try to do as little as possible. And tomorrow, Venus squares Pluto, which you can think of it as you can think of it as creative tension. Traditionally, squares are difficult aspects. But when we are studying subjects that are so old that the language even is kind of often in need of an update, it's important to keep really the heart of the archetypes alive, but start to use language that is modern so that we can really come into the work in a fruitful way. So because of Venus squaring Pluto, this is I've decided to do a liver series today. And part of what I was curious to talk about in terms of the liver and Pluto and the transits in the sky, the celestial bodies affecting our emotional and physical and even spiritual life, is I had a conversation with a dear friend about lots of things, of course, as conversations tend to be. But one subject that came up was this subject of when Pluto, this planet that is far, far away and small, when it aspects elements in our natal chart, it can be very dramatic and very often dark, hard. And my friend was describing that they felt like there was like a shadow over them. You know, their sun was being opposed by Pluto. With your next inhale, start to slide your body forward, coming into Sphinx. You can grab opposite elbows to make sure your elbows are just as wide as your shoulders. Let your legs stretch back behind you. Oops, sorry. Now, one question that I'm asking again and again in the times that we're living in is how do we move from victimhood to empowerment, from, feeling as if every negative event that happens to us is purely just punishment, and we are subject to some bigger force that is tenderizing us just by overwhelming us with hard things. Because in our lifetimes and from biography to biography, it's going to be different. Just like when we look at the astrological aspects, some people have the relationships of when certain planets are going to be doing certain things in your chart really goes classically with like the age that you're at. There's certain transits that go hand in hand with how we grow older, what sort of initiations happen for everybody. Then other aspects of a chart are very, can happen for one person when they're 7, another person when they're 17 or 70. And so there'll be different iterations of a similar challenge or a reiteration of a similar step. So together with this question of how do I sidestep, move out of transform victimhood into fodder for my work, fodder for my growth. There's also a question for me about how I wonder if the challenges that we receive earlier in life are much more practical and physical and kind of having to do with our physical, with our etheric, like with our enthusiasm, with our, intellect, and that these aspects, if they're in an older person's chart, maybe it has more to do with the energetics, with the changing of our thinking so that we can empower kind of the growth of our compassion or the transformation of our etheric body. Now, either stay here or extend your arms, moving into Sphinx if you haven't already. Of course, you're welcome also if you've been in Sphinx for a while, to just walk your hands a little closer towards you again. So in our youth, we often really test our liver. Often it is that time where we are aggressively out of balance in our becoming. And if you're not testing it by, drinking too much alcohol or doing nefarious things substance-wise, even being in environments of cities and places that we find ourselves is a challenge for the liver, or something as crazy as a woman's cycle. Now take 10 more full deep breaths here. In traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is connected to the element of wood. And occult wise, it's connected to the planet Jupiter. And so both with wood and Jupiter, there's this element of the archetype that is all about expansion and growth and movement. And maybe you've reached your 10th breath. If you have, you're going to find your way however you want to downward facing dog. We're just going to use downward facing dog as a little fiery transition. So you can wiggle a little bit, jiggle a little bit, and then stretch your right leg long and bring your right knee forward, setting up for sleeping swan. So a good test is to see that you can balance on your right shin. If you can't, you just move your right knee out to the right. And then start to walk your hands down, bringing your forehead down to the ground, stretching your arms perhaps, or using your arms as a pillow. Take a full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. Now, while my friend has this aspect of Pluto opposing the sun, I have the aspect where Pluto is squaring my Mars. And a typical transit with Pluto and Mars is, well, let's just say, easy to get angry, to be kind of vengeful, or like kind of act before you think about it, impulsively, and often kind of it's not gentle, you know. Mars, the god of war, Pluto is like death and rebirth, and in its shadow, this is about loss and betrayal, all of which are experiences that our biographies share. It's rare to meet a person who doesn't feel they haven't been betrayed once or twice in their life. It's unlikely that you're going to meet someone who hasn't experienced loss or won't experience loss in the future. And so intimately in our life, on Earth, we are coupled together with death on Earth as well. So while my friend was saying he wanted to hide underneath a rock, his sun dampened by the cloud of Pluto and Aquarius, my experience has been kind of wanting to, like, maybe it's a little bit like the Black Knight, but wanting to fight, just argue, be fiery, and not only wanting to, but doing it even without noticing I'm doing it. For all of us, we are experiencing a shift, particularly with Pluto this year, as Pluto moves from being in the sign of Pisces to moving into being in the sign of Aquarius, the future, where it goes one more retrograde in 2 days. Its final retrograde and its final entry into Capricorn. And then after this retrograde in November, it will enter Aquarius and be there for the next about 20 years. So there's a big shift for everyone, even if you don't have a particular dynamic that's like lighting up right now. And as I said, tomorrow, Venus is squaring Pluto for everyone. Now start to walk your hands back towards you and tuck your left toes under, stretch your right leg out and just shake it out, bend a couple times, wiggle, crack, snap, pop. And then bring your right knee down to the ground, bring your left knee down to the ground. And once your left knee's down, bring your right knee forward and twist it around in front of your left knee. Spread your feet out and then help yourself onto your butt. You can take your hands next to your hips and just slide your booty back. Feel that it tilts your pelvis. And then lift up your heart. And with your exhale, start to roll down, bringing your forehead towards your knee, bringing your chin towards your chest, or actually bringing your chin in front of your knee. Now, betrayal, loss, death, all of these hard things change us, change our world. And this is true whether we are the one being betrayed or betraying, whether we lose relationship because of our fault or not. You know, there's so many different sides and roles to these life events that carry these unfortunate gifts. And the heavy, dark nature of these gifts, it's easy to feel the victim of the forces instead of remembering that, you know, this is all part of the big design, or this is, oddly enough, painful as it is, it's here to change you. And then your fire and your light and your sun power, soul power, is what gets to try to influence how we are changed by these situations. You know, if we put our will force into transformation, into love, into prayer, into grace, devotion. It might not change that we still want to kind of hide underneath a rock or still want to fight. But what these forces do is they hammer away at us, pound, hurt, wound us in ways that we can let the transformation at least dissipate the shame, the guilt, even temper our culpability. Now inhale, roll up. And you're going to keep your legs as they are, with your right leg over your left. And you're going to slide your left arm. First, we're going to go this way, and then we'll go the other way. To the left, you can bring your elbow down if that works for you. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. So either way. But what you want to feel is a nice stretch between your intercostal muscles on your left side. Sorry, your right side. We're not staying here for so long. So maybe let your head drop too. If you can take a full breath, opening your heart up towards the ceiling. And then inhale, stretch up to center, and then slide, bringing your right elbow towards the ground, your left arm draping over your left ear. And this time we're going to stay a little bit longer, let your elbow be heavy, feeling how your right leg being on top of your left leg is actually making the stretch richer because your bottom leg is being pinned down as you stretch in the opposite direction. So as my teacher talks about these aspects, we can kind of say, oh no, they're horrible, or how can we be creative within them? Is, I think, one of the roads to finding empowerment through these things, to, instead of resisting the transformation, to lean into the transformation. So in my own I don't know what you would call it, my own struggle with Pluto squaring Mars and wanting to fight with everything, is to, like, I had the experience of being the Pluto for someone else, of being the one who the other person felt betrayed by saying something that was extra sharp or loaded. And then inhale, lift up your spine, and you're going to stretch your bottom leg, the one that was pinned, you're going to stretch it straight out in front of you. So now you can let your right knee drop over your left knee. Again, if you want to readjust and bring your hands next to your hips, slide your hips back a little bit so you can tilt your tilt. That would be tilt your pelvis more. Roll down, bow down over your knee again, letting your head bow forward, let your hands, maybe your palms even face up. Noticing after a little while, you can soften even more. So maybe part of the medicine is to really work on using intention and focus on a higher mission to help the power and the kind of the beating of Mars be more about kindly reshaping the things that matter. compassionate. So often when I talk about Mars, I talk about how we need to do our inner work to lift it up from just being below the belt, to lift it up so we can bring it to our heart force, and ultimately so we can bring it to our spiritual development. And then inhale, roll up. We're going to transform this into a twist. So you're going to bring your right foot to the floor so your knee points up. Take your right hand to the base of your spine. Inhale, stretch your left arm straight up to the ceiling. And with your exhale, twist, bringing your left elbow to the outside of your right knee. Feeling how when you push into your knee with your elbow, it helps your knee point up to the ceiling and you can push down through the ball of your foot. So doing a little yang here to get into the twist. We're actually just going to keep this twist yang. We're not going to hold it for 5. So let it be a powerful moment. Get into your muscles as well as your alignment. Engage your bandhas, lifting up your perineum for your root lock, engaging your Uddiyana Bandha, pulling in the hara points to your belly, to your spine. And then release. Stretch your legs out in front of you. Give them a little wiggle, shake, shake. And then pause for a moment and just feel, do they feel a little different from each other? Mine do. Feels, even though I've only been doing kind of half the poses, you know. So let's get a little bit more balance going. Cross your ankles, roll over across the ankles, and we're going to stretch back into downward facing dog, glide forward into plank, and roll your hips down to the ground, coming into Sphinx or seal. So we're gonna spend about 5 minutes here. You can divide the time how you'd like. Sphinx or seal. And there's always a nice in between. If you have like 2 books that are the same height or yoga blocks, you can put your blocks underneath your forearms. Now, it would be cute and wonderful if there was like, you know, a 3-step way to transform trauma into useful stuff. But I think part of this, part of the gift of our human consciousness becoming more and more individuated in each of us comes together with a challenge where the steps that work for one person aren't going to be the same steps that are necessary for the other person. But there is this inner intimate process that needs to be initiated by everyone. And especially anyone who's experienced anything vaguely traumatic or had a traumatic experience of a mundane event. That we don't just stop there, identify there, make ourself known there. We observe there, we share there, we talk about it, but then we move deeper into it. We move more with it. And we don't hammer away so much at it that it becomes our identity. That is key. Maybe you're ready to extend your arms for the last minute. Now, there are inroads to these changes through prayer, asking for guidance, asking for grace. We can use active imagination, asking ourselves questions of how would it feel to be healed from that? Or what would happen if there was another side to the story? Whether if your hands are in seal, great. If they're not, bring your hands into seal, tuck your toes, come back into downward facing dog. And then bring your right knee forward, setting up for sleeping swan. Sleeping swan. Yes. Beautiful. Stretch through your right big toe, making sure your left knee is to the left side of your left hip. And then pour your body forward. Swan is a beautiful animal medicine card with the traditional American Indians, the Native Americans. They're with the swan, it's basically the story of the ugly duckling, where the transformation in dream time of this duck into a swan, dream time goes through the black hole, transforms this duck into a swan, and that is all connected to grace. And you could really say that black hole, that's Pluto. So in the development, even the evolution, even in the world, the short-lived world, or not short-lived, it's still young world of self-help. In the 70s, we had such a renaissance of different disciplines, different charismatic leaders sharing stories about woundedness, and identifying the wounds of their life. And the darling Caroline Myss, she refers to this like this is woundology, that everyone kind of learned how to name. Oh, I'm wounded because of this, or this was traumatic, and this is where I'm wounded, and so even on all sorts of levels. So you can get really stuck in like, oh, these are my needs, and these are my wounds, and that's why I need special attention, or this is why I behave badly. And this was still really strong, and still is very strong and rooted in our alternative and new age communities, that there's kind of this habit of making it out like everyone's traumatized, wounded, a victim, and they are, but it just kind of leaves people there. And we're in a time where we need to take this a step further. We need to be coming out on the other side of this. which is part of, Pluto moving into Aquarius. Pluto, Scorpio, they're connected to letting things go. And the best way to let things go, according to, Buddhism, is to be grateful for them. But really, the letting go of something, like, we don't ever lose anything. It's just, it becomes something different. It's transformed. You are transformed. And then start to walk your hands back towards you. And once again, just shake out your left leg, bending and straightening your knee a couple times, moving around in your hip, and then come down to all fours, and then walk your left knee in front of your right knee. Wiggle your feet out to the sides, and then roll over your crossed ankles, coming onto your butt. Take your hands next to your hips, shift your hips just back, tilt them back, and then roll forward, bringing your forehead towards your knee. When we look in the natal chart, I'm doing a reading for someone, and you look to see where Pluto is, because it talks about what generation you're in, but it also talks about kind of the mission of your soul, this part of you that lies below your awareness, and that includes not only your personal unconsciousness, but it also includes a collective unconsciousness. It includes this world. Which is always a challenge for the thinking, to understand that, wow, my soul, this thing that is connecting me both to the earthly world and to the spirit world, lies beyond the collective unconsciousness, beyond the unexpressed thoughts of all human beings. So therefore, every human being who I interact with is within that calculation. So any human being I meet potentially can transform my soul, change me from experience, from the inside out, changing my world. Even when we look at what tastes are healing for the liver, they're bitter tastes. Liver tea, bitter. And it's so healing for our liver. It's horrible to discover that your words have hurt someone, or you have hurt someone. It's horrible to be hurt. But it's nearly as if we have to ingest and digest and transform even the bitterness of an experience to bring us and deliver us to the sweetness of what is available to us while we're alive on earth. Now start to roll up. And first, we are going to take our right hand to the right, drape our left arm over our ear. Not lingering too long. So let your head drop into it. And then inhale and slide to the other side. Now you feel that your top leg is pinning down your bottom knee, so you feel the stretch more intensely. Good point. If you need to, you can put a pillow underneath your left elbow to make the floor a little closer. And sink into the gravity of the pose. So let the floor work on you. Let the way your body wants to drop help you. So I think this might even be part of nonviolent communication, where one of the elements of when you are hurt by somebody else is to get curious about what suffering they are experiencing that made them be hurtful. Maybe it's more of the Buddhist thinking around it. But we're not usually hurt by happy people. So curiosity is one of the wonderful way to move into a different relationship with all sorts of things, whether it's anger, rage, even trauma. You know, Pluto is connected to our soul, and it's connected to every life that we incarnate into. And then inhale, lift your body upright and stretch your bottom leg straight forward. Maybe even pulling your left knee a little bit more over your right knee. You can take your hands next to your hips again, slide your butt back, and then bow forward over this extended version of half shoelace. So one of the things that we start to notice is our shadow is the perpetrator. We have to recognize that a part of our shadow will hurt people, even if it's below our awareness when it happens. Part of the shadow is being stuck in the victim, and if we don't want to look at that, we stay there. There is in our modern culture right now, I call it, there's like the commodity of victimhood, being used as if it gives you permission to not work on yourself or to be unkind, selfish. But this is it's like a false economy. Holding on to that exchange doesn't lift you up. It keeps you in your place. What happens when you stop feeling or stop being in the habit of being the victim? Do you notice when you slip into it? Do I notice? Do you notice? You know, it's not to punish us, but every moment that we actually shed our love and light in this pursuit of self knowledge, we actually feed our capacity to help each other. Start to slowly roll up and step your left foot onto the ground so that your right knee is pointing up. Take your left hand to the base of your spine, stretch your right arm up. You might feel like you've got this eurythmy. I am. And then with your exhale, twist, ending our practice with this active twist today. Feel that when you push and root down to the ground with your foot, your knee reaches up more upright to the ceiling. Pull your belly to your spine, twisting from the base up to the crown of your head. Inhale, get a little taller. Exhale, twist a little bit more. And then release, unwind. Pull your knees in. Give yourself 2 kisses, one for each knee. And then stretch your body out for Shavasana. Allowing the rest, the Shavasana, the corpse pose, to be that final step in a little transformation today. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. From our friend from the 13th century, our dear Rumi. Now start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe make some faces, wiggle your nose, maybe smile. Inhale, stretch your arms above your head. Wiggle your body long and strong. And with your exhale, curl into a ball. And using your right arm as a pillow, roll onto your right hand side. Just feel for a moment your belonging, your vitality, your solar purpose. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position and bring your hands to heart center. Take a moment to invite all of the people or even times that you thought of that came up for you during practice today. Invite them into this moment. Whoever you dedicated your class to, it could be a crowd. And let's close with one Om. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale through your nose. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And so much love. Now bang the floor and make some noise. And maybe give yourself a little clap or a little pat on the shoulder. Thank you so much for being here today.